What I set out to do in this video is compare Argon, Stargon AL, which is a special active gas for aluminum, and Argon-helium mix. Measure travel speed, do a cut and etch at the end to check penetration, check overall appearance. You get the drill. Monkey wrench along the way. You'll see. Let's do it. So for this test, I set up 3 identical lap joints, all 1/8 inch thick, 6061 aluminum. And I'm using a 200 amp TIG welder today, this CK MT200. And incidentally, you can get more out of any 200 amp TIG welder on aluminum by adding a little bit of helium or by using something like Stargon AL. I had the machine set at 130 amps and I floored the foot pedal for everything that you see in this video. At a Fab Tech a couple of years ago, I had a chance to weld with some Stargon AL at a Praxair booth. And so it's taken me a while, but I got a cylinder of it. So that's what I want to do today, is compare it to straight argon as well as a 25% helium argon mix. As far as a cup for TIG welding aluminum, there's a lot of discussion on that. A lot of people love a number 5 cup with a standard collet body. Some people love a gas lens. Today I'm going to use a standard number 5 clear cup, and I'm going to put it on my 17 air-cooled torch, mainly for the sake of filming. But I do like this cup anyway for aluminum up to about 1/8 of an inch thick. And I'm going to have a tapered point, and I'm just going to let it ball kind of how it wants to ball. Everything's set on 15 CFH today. As I mentioned earlier, I set the machine on 130 amps and I just floored the foot pedal. And that was just about right. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. It gave me a pretty average travel speed. And I went about as fast as it would let me go, which is not exactly flying, but a nice, comfortable, easy speed. I tend to dip about once a second. You can kind of watch me, my filler rod hand here. That's just about once per second, just to sort of get a rhythm going. I would definitely pick up the speed if I were doing production parts and getting in the groove and everything. I'd probably be dipping once every half second or twice per second, moving right along. But anyway, that was a nice fresh tank of argon. See, it got a nice frosty cleaning line. And I just left this little overhang here for fun, just to make myself feel better about myself. It's a nice, easy, fun weld. Alright, so up next is the Stargon AL. I haven't used this a whole lot. I've messed around with it just a little bit. It's a proprietary blend that's got just a few parts per million of something. I've heard nitrous oxide and some other things. I'm not really sure. Kind of hard to find that information. Again, 15 CFH. This is where I ran into the wrinkle here, the monkey wrench. This just wouldn't flow. It just was a milky oxide film covering the surface of the puddle. Puddle just didn't want to move with me. And I'm wondering what's going on here, because this is not what I experienced when I welded with it at Fab Tech. But if you see how slow my dips of filler rod are, I had to coax it along like I had turned the machine down 20 amps or something. And that's what happens when you get oxide in a puddle. Sometimes it won't flow. It doesn't matter if it's a nickel alloy or aluminum or whatever. Oxides in the puddle typically make the puddle more sluggish, make it not wet in, and it just slowed everything down for me here. You'll see at the finished bead here, it just didn't do very well. Kind of almost looks a little bit cold. This one, after it's all heated up and everything, went just fine. Still a little bit dirty. Next up, we're going to use the Argon-helium mix. This is a pre-mix in a bottle here. I usually use a Y valve. I've got a tank of ultra-high purity aluminum. I don't always use ultra-high purity, but I got lucky and got it at a really good deal. I usually keep that next to a tank of argon, and I use a Y, a Western Y like this with valves, and then it goes right to the back of my machine. It doesn't take much helium to make a big difference either. Sometimes I'll only float the ball this much, and that makes a tank of helium last a long time. But this is premix. This is 25% helium. I wouldn't recommend buying one with 25% helium. If you're going to get a helium mix, I would go ahead and get at least 50% to get the most out of it, because you really only need it for thicker than 1/8 of an inch. You can see how quicker the travel speed is going here. I'm motoring right along. Puddle is much cleaner than it was with the Stargon. It looks cleaner. Travel speed is much faster. I had to just crawl along with the Stargon, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. I was really scratching my head with the Stargon. I'm going, what is going on here? If I got a bad tank of gas or what? But we'll figure it out. So that did not too shabby right there. 39 seconds, just almost exactly the same travel speed as the pure argon. So when we're finished with all these, we're going to do a cut and etch and check for penetration. But let's take a quick look at them first. Notice the argon, even with a small number 5 cup, see it's got quite an etch zone there. The Stargon, same flow rate and everything, hardly any etch zone, little oxides floating in the puddle. And the Argon-helium mix, a narrower band of etch line. On the backside, no evidence of penetration on the argon. The Stargon nipped it toward the end, probably because I just had to go so slow and the heat built up so much. And then the Argon-helium mix, hardly any evidence, but right on the very end it started to nip it. I was really scratching my head again about the Stargon, and so I happen to remember that the people that I know that have used it tend to use a gas lens with it. So I thought I will set up a number 8 gas lens on here. Again, I'm going to use a clear cup because I want to be able to film it so we can all see it better. So that's my setup here. So this is Stargon AL now at 20 CFH with a number 8 gas lens, like night and day. Night and day. Nice clean puddle. Travel speed is just what it was with the helium or the argon. Probably could have gone faster, but I'm just welding it. Kind of just seems how fast it wants to go. The cleaning lines are nice. And the travel speed, again, it's almost identical to what it took me to weld the others. So now we're going to be able to see a cut and etch on both the number 5 cup and the number 8 cup here, as well as the pure argon and argon-helium mix. I'm using a little beeswax here on a slitting wheel. That makes it go really faster than without it. And then I took them down to a 600 grit polish, which is not a super high polish, but it's enough for doing an etch. Better the polish, the more detail you'll see. All right, this is the pure argon with the number 5 cup. I don't see any distinct lack of fusion, but it also didn't punch in there a whole lot. This is the Stargon AL with the number 5 cup. It definitely got in there a little deeper, probably because of the slow travel speed. Here is the Stargon AL using the number 8 gas lens. Still got in there. Definitely the travel speed was a lot faster. Weld was cleaner. And this is the one with the helium mix. So one of the takeaways here, for me anyway, is I think what I showed here today is I think that the Stargon AL is slightly more sensitive to small amounts of oxidation, whether it's from the hot tip of the rod coming, because I was using a small cup, or just drawing some parts per million of atmosphere into the arc stream. It made way more difference. It slowed that puddle down with a number 5 cup on the Stargon AL. When I switched to the 8 gas lens, night and day. But the 5 worked great on pure argon as well as argon-helium. Always something to learn, right? The whole reason I ever even started using clear cups was just trying to shoot better videos. Trying to shoot a video where we could all see what was going on better. But I learned really quickly it helps me see a lot better. That's the name of the game. My eyes are a little bit older now. Need all the help I can get. If you think it might help you, visit weldmonger.com. Check them out.